of good news, a flurry of goodnesses, and His Highness Sayyid Adham touched upon it, and Mr. Sharma also spoke about it. According to World Bank, Oman is going to be the fastest growing economy in 2023 in the GCC region. According to the IMF, we are going to be the fastest growing economy in 2024 in the Arab world. The ratings have been improved. S&P has just said that we've gone from stable to positive. And the most important, I think, is the FDI intelligence in its FDI standouts watch list, which ranks Oman as the fourth most attractive FDI destination after Qatar, India, and Morocco. So obviously, Oman is doing something right, and a lot of credit can go to you. What is the big change in the government's mindset first, and what have been the headline measures or policies that you have taken at the ministry?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Your Excellencies, Your Highness, for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with OER. It's probably my first interaction with the business and the industry in my official capacity as I went down the burrow hole in the rabbit analogy and realized what I've gotten into, or I'm still trying to grapple with what I've gotten into. But pleasantly surprised, there's so much that can be done, should be done, and I'm pretty positive will be done in areas of serving commerce and industry. Coming back to your question, Mike, what has been done and why is it that Oman is standing out amongst its peers in terms of being an attractive destination? I think it's not something which has happened all of a sudden in the last 2 or 3 years that has made Oman stand out. It's something which has been built upon over the years, and I think if there are 2 or 3 major attractions that I give. One, we've made Oman an interesting a destination for investment is because our tax regime has been moderate. We've not gone overboard with that. We've said that we've always maintained it, and we've kept it that way. Number 2, we're a stable, dependable, geopolitical country. We've stood by our grounds, we've stayed neutral, and for any foreign direct investment today, that is a critical factor. You know, how stable is your politics? How stable is your policy making? Do you stand your ground? You also realize that over the years, if you look at the last 20 years of investment history in the Middle East, Oman has stayed pretty much below the radar in terms of an investment attractable destination, despite the fact that foreigners were able to own 100% of the business without having local partners. And today, if you go to see in local businesses, in our neighbors, in our peers, that is still a culture. And Oman has kept on doing that over the years. Now, as we grow further, we have made sure that we have laid now a particular base for the speed of doing business or speed of setting up business, the ease of setting up business, whether it's a digital, and then most importantly, the cost of doing business. And I think those are the key factors which have really made it, enabled us to kind of attract the kind of investment that we want. And we've stayed within a narrow band of investment opportunities within Oman, but a focused band. And I think being focused is going to be the ultimate key to Oman standing out and succeeding in achieving the IMF forecasted 5.2 for next year.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about specifics. I mean, policy. Let's talk about specific measures that you have taken here. And I'd like to start with the Invest Oman Lounge. The Invest Oman Lounge, and when it was launched, and I quote you, you said that we decided to create a lounge which reinforces the message that Oman means business. So, I mean, and we have seen something similar in the past. There was this one window clearance system. We have had the Invest Easy portal. Now, is Invest Oman Lounge like just another thing which is basically a single window clearance coming back in a new name, or you think this is a differentiated proposition which will work this time?
See, you have to appreciate that you can't treat every investor in the same manner. It's like traveling in a plane. You have first class, business class, premier economy. There is segments of economy and investments that will come in from small, medium, large, and the multinationals of the world. And you have to treat them differently. They want to be treated. They want to be looked after. Can the MOCI IP become the concierge service, the butler service to the industry? Can we change the mindset from being a regulator to being a service provider, an enabler, a handholder? We do not want to lead. We want to be the track and not the engine. We need to be can we give you the accessibility to what you want to achieve at the right time, in the right shape, in the right mindset? And I think what is required is a mindset change. So what we did differently at Invest Oman Lounge is we actually hired account managers rather than sales managers. They were facilitators, and they were responsible for one individual client at a time. And these people came from established economic successful companies, whether it was banks, whether it was telecom enterprises, whether it was certain downstream OIA and OQ-like organizations. And we brought them in, we said, you've done this before, can you do it for us and help us set it up? So we seconded people from established industries to look after large investors. We've started with a particular threshold in terms of attracting people into the Invest Oman Lounge. And we've got 14 to 17 government entities present there to take a decision and give an answer. Now, I'm not sure how often do we take a decision there and then, but we do give them an answer that we'll get back to you within a short time. And everybody is on a balanced scorecard performance indexing. So we've tried to bring about a certain amount of corporate culture into enabling business.
How short is the short time, or is it like, or how long is this short time?
Yeah, how long is a piece of string? But we are hoping that large investment opportunities get done within weeks rather than months. So we are able to give in-principle approvals within a few weeks, land allocation, licenses on various other parameters, utility allocation, probably within a month or two. So I think we've got that in place. The fact that we are connected with the utility service providers, with the Ministry of Oil and Gas, having the presence in the center is making a big difference.
That's wonderful to hear, Your Excellency. Another big step change has been the way you have decided to reduce fees for commercial registration, and now foreign investors are being treated equally on par with domestic investors. In addition, there have been tax incentives, you have streamlined regulations, and you have simplified procedures. I mean, I know it's still early days, but how is it being received when you have your conversations or one-to-one meetings with people from different countries or investors?
Thank you, Mayank, but I haven't done that. The government has done that. I haven't played much of a role in making that happen. But from an industrial point of view, there was enough pressure, there was enough requests from industries saying, why are we depending on revenue based on fees? Why can't you first open the gateway to investment? And that will find ways to start benefiting, and the country will find ways to think. You must try and understand, there's a difference between us and the rest. Oman is not there. Oman's main priority is not wealth creation, but employment creation. And we all have accepted that we need to generate, we need to give opportunities to our youth. whether it's in employment, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in academia. We need to give them that inspiration to go out, that there is opportunity for them. So that being the case, then revenue does not stand out as a main reason for doing business. And I think that's something which is very clear now. And this is the path we're following, and I think that's the reason why you're seeing that the barriers and accesses to business, setting up business and doing business needs to be lowered or removed. And I think we've accepted that.
You spoke about employment generative investment. Now, this can also be a deterrent for someone who wants to invest in your country because you're competing. And if the moment you start putting quotas and saying that these are the rules that you have to follow if you are going to invest, hire and fire is going to be difficult here, you think that this is going to be a deterrent for investors?
Let me answer your question in a different way. His Highness mentioned very clearly that hydrocarbon or hydro Oman is going to be the new paradigm change in our investment and in our future. And hydrogen will do that. Now, hydrogen means green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is the fuel for green metals, green fertilizer, green alloys, green whatever, transportation, etc. Now, if I have to send green hydrogen straight on a ship and out as a means through ammonia, and it doesn't do any good, what about the local industry here? So I think the idea is that whoever produces this green hydrogen ensures that there will be at least a certain percentage of this green hydrogen will be left behind for industrial use and creating industrial downstream projects. Another thing we need to understand is that we've set up base metal industries. We've got the Wale of the world, we've got the Oman aluminum of the world. How many of these base metal industries have actually got a large amount of downstream industries for aluminum or steel or petrochemicals or plastics? This is where we want to plug in now. We want to bring in that downstream plastics, specialty aluminum, stainless steel or electrical steel. Why haven't we approached that? And that is what we want to gun in for. That is where the employment will come, is ancillary industry. Employment is never generated by major base industries or anchor industries. It's the ancillary industries that provide the employment. And this is where we've now realized that we need to go and attract these ancillary industries, the downstream industries. So when we look around for FDI, as one of my mandates is to go and attract business to Oman, as I call myself the so-called marketing manager for Oman Inc. The idea is to find downstream in these 6 or 7 key sectors that we've already got the base industries in.
That's a great point that you raised, Your Excellency, because I wanted to ask you, till now, Oman has been marketed in a kind of a vanilla way. Come invest, we are politically stable, it's a good economy. Has that changed? How are you marketing Oman now? Is it one thing you already touched upon, that we're looking at downstream industries where we have a strength and saying, come and invest here? Is there some other things on the table now?
See, when I came into the role, I wanted to understand what our investment attraction strategy was. And clearly, OIA had a strategy, OPAS had a strategy, the ports independently had a strategy, the Madain had a strategy. But as a country, did we have a strategy in attracting sectoral investment? Probably did, but it wasn't quite effectively communicated to the investor. Our efforts to attract investment were promoting Oman as an investment destination, but not promoting a particular sector or a downstream industry. When I came on, built a little team of trying to understand what we should be doing and what we should be attracting, we realized that a strategy, focused strategy, was what was required. and we tried to understand the spectrum of resources that Oman would offer and what is it that we want to work on. So we had to definitely start putting down these pillars of where we can be the input for any investor that comes in. You know, what are the resources that Oman is going to offer, and what is the outcome that we want out of turning these resources into value-added finished goods. And we went around that, and we have now narrowed down into, I think, 6 to 10 verticals that we want to focus on and attract industry investment in those areas. I think that's the change that is going to happen. Oman is not going to generically market itself as an investment destination. Oman is going to market investment opportunities in particular sectors downstream. We don't need to have town hall meetings or trade shows or investment opportunity shows going around. What we'll need to do is to work with associations and bodies of that particular sector in other countries to see whether there is appetite for them in investing in Oman. And I think that's the change that is going to happen.
Just a related thing, and this has been a concern with the business community, that people don't work together in the government. Now, you mentioned about OPAs, and you mentioned about the ministry and a lot of other government organizations. Can you change that culture when you come up with an administrative fiat saying, now work together? Does that happen? I mean, what are the efforts in changing the culture and making people work together?
Mike, let me assure you, I'm not a change maker. I am a great professor of change, and I believe that change has to happen, and that's the only constant, and we all know that. But let me assure you, in the last, I would say, 18 months since we came out of the pandemic austerities, etc., the consciousness within government organizations to work together, I have never seen this more evident than what I have in the last 18 months. Whether it's OQ, whether it's OPAS, whether it's the OIA entities, there is more and more focused approach to saying, okay, what are you offering? What are you marketing? Can we work together? I don't want to repeat what you're doing. And there is suddenly dialogue happening within entities. I work with Oman Chamber, and I say to Sheikh Rizal, you will be doing the road shows. I will be only a plug or a spoke in your total entire wheel. The road shows to attract and showcase Oman is their responsibility. My responsibility is to talk about a particular sector of offering. And that's how we're going to do about it. So I think there is already the consciousness of change in the way we approach and attract business, for sure. And I do not think there is any more siloed mindset in terms of marketing Oman. Yes, it was the perception, but let me assure you, from a government perspective, my entity, whether His Excellency Abtasam, who's taken over investment promotion as Under Secretary, and myself as advisor, foreign trade investment, foreign investment, we're very conscious that, look, if there is a champion for marketing particular thing, whether it's OPAS or a OIA entity, let them do it. We just need to support them. We just need to tell them that we are there if we need to be anything. We do not want to kind of take charge, or we do not want to be in the forefront. No. But if we're missing out any particular area, then yes, we want to say that this is the plugins that we want to put in.
We will open up the floor for questions after one question that I'm going to ask. So please be ready with your questions if you have any. And His Highness touched upon this briefly in his presentation. The world has moved from globalization and multilateralism to a more protectionist ethos. Now, have you changed the way you're going to get into negotiations or bilateral trade agreements with regions or countries now in future?
See, Oman is, that's the other thing that we're looking at. We were hoping that GCC, and we are very sure that GCC will forge further free trade agreements multilateral agreements with other territories. Oman also has aspirations to do bilateral trade agreements, and that's probably the mandate that I've been given to study the opportunities and which are the areas that we want to go along with. It's pretty evident from the way the world is moving, the economies of the world are shaping, the growth is happening, and that is the main engine of consumption growth is Asia. The emerging markets that we need to watch out for are Africa. So we need to look at, then, can we forge, what are the downstream exports that we want to focus on, and where do you think our markets are, and who do you think needs our downstream markets? So as long as we're trying to be a focused approach on what is our export potential market, where is it, then if you just answer these two questions, then it kind of narrows down the countries with which you want to forge a trade relationship. And that's the kind of route that we are taking. I think in the next 2 to 3 months, we would have agreed on the areas, but you've read my lips and you've heard me say, we believe that Asia, Africa are the future growth markets, and we will want to forge free trade agreements. Because with 4.5 million people and the GCC, our market to barrier-free trade is limited. We need to grow into a billion people market, into a 2 billion people market. We've been working within the 100 million people market. Can we go into the next level? And I think that's something that we'll need to plug in.
Can you share some names of some countries that you're looking at if it's not confidential?
See, there's nothing confidential about it. Look, the Indian subcontinent is a very attractive market. India, Bangladesh register the highest GDP growth rates. Their consumerism is really high. They offer 1.6 billion people together. So if you look at just the Indian subcontinent, which is India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, that is 2 billion people. If you look at Eastern Africa, or our erstwhile friends and cousins in Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, that's 200 million people. They have a per capita of about $1,100 to $1,200. But if you look at only the 10% of that, top 10% of that country, we're talking about 20 million people at $5,000 plus. In India, subcontinent, you look at 2 billion people, you take 5%, which is 100 million people at $10,000 plus. I mean, that's the kind of attraction and the consumerism that we need to attract that. Can we forge free trade agreements with that? What about ASEAN? Again, I think ASEAN countries, whether it's Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, emerging, fast developing economies, fantastic amount of resilience and growth potential. We need to start talking with them. And then, of course, you have the big Korea, Japan, China, which is the thing. And Your Excellency, thank you very much for being there. We're happy to forge alliances with. This is the area that we're looking at.
Wonderful, Your Excellency. Yeah, if there are any questions, please do raise your hands and we'll get a mic to you soon. Sure. Just to, okay, I think if there are no questions, how has this transition been from being someone who leads a business to join the government? And all these years you've been saying that I want this, that, and now you're the driver of that change. How has this transition been?
Well, they say this is a new learning, and they say that you never stop learning. So for me, it was like going back to school, unlearning. And I hope I did not unlearn the corporate culture, because the idea was to bring about the corporate culture to this side. And I said, I just hope that I'm able to be as thick-headed and as bullish in my approach to implementing the corporate lifestyle into the public sector, and not the other way around. I've enjoyed this experience, the transition that has happened. It's like His Highness mentioned, the analogy of being driven down into a burrow hole and finding your way around. It was a new experience, but enjoying it thoroughly, and I hope that I don't get carried away with the enjoyment and start delivering, because that is what is expected at the end of the day. I have a balanced scorecard that I need to meet. There is so much that is expected. The biggest, I think, area that I'd really like to contribute on is probably the culture and the transformation change. I know that's not really a mandate, but we now, with His Excellency Kais and Her Excellency Abdesam and Dr. Sala, our Undersecretary of Trade and Investment, we work very closely together. We really understand where we are, and we say that, look, it's not about you are in this area and I am in this area. It's about what we exchange between us. We meet on a weekly basis and have a top 4 breakfast just to exchange ideas, just to tell each other what needs to be done, what we think that needs to be the priority, what are the challenges we faced past week, and what is it that we want to address. So I think we're bringing about this little boardroom culture within the organization and then letting it trickle down within the system and having clear communication. Those are the kind of things that are really making, we hope that will make the difference. And more importantly, it's the mindset change. Transformation is not about transforming from from closed offices to open plan for offices. Transformation is about can we change our mindset from being regulators or autocrats to being a service industry or service providers or facilitators and concierge and a butler approach. And I think this is what we want to be in the next couple of years. Thank you.
And that's really heartening to hear. Just a last question, and when we were doing a research on this fireside chat, we were speaking to a lot of business leaders, and one concern that was raised was saying that the government still fixes prices for a number of commodities. And on this platform in the past, and I didn't want to play that, but you said that you're not in favor of the government authority dictating or fixing prices for my business. Where do you stand on that?
Mayank, like His Highness said, giving advice is the most dangerous thing in the world. But now that you've actually pegged me down and asked me this question, yes, I still feel that the CPA, the Consumer Protection Agency, needs to protect the consumer, and there are essential commodities that need to be governed, need to be monitored, but not controlled. Okay. Monitoring is something that we all want to do, but I don't think controlling and regulating prices is the role of government.
Well, thank you, Your Excellency, for your gracious presence, for his candid replies, and for kind of answering all our queries and all our questions and enlightening us. Can we have a huge round of applause for His Excellency?